Hello and welcome to the Basketball Addicts podcast. Today, we have a fun one. Today, basically what you guys are going to get today is we're recording this the day after game 2. So we've seen game 1 and game 2 of the NBA Finals, yes, between the Golden State Warriors and the Boston Celtics. Both home games at the Golden State Warriors Oracle Arena. I think that might be the old arena have been played, and we are ready to react. We're going to talk to you guys about these games and tell you what we think about things. It's going to be really interesting. They split 1-1. So, Chris, I'm excited to hear what your take is. Game 1, game 2. Let me hear what you got.
So you hear me okay, right? I'm clear?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Yeah, so my biggest takeaway from this game is the Warriors just have too many options. Way too many options. This has been said before, but it's legitimately been set in stone and cemented. Like, it's in granite now. It can never be taken away from them. They have too many options, and that's going to be a problem. The biggest problem that I said that the Boston Celtics had going forward and playing the Warriors is that they have too many dry spells, and when they have dry spells, they don't have anybody else they can lean on to go get them a bucket. We seen it last night. We didn't see it technically, and we saw it a little bit in the third quarter of game 1. But then Al Horford came in and was like, "Oh, wait a second, I'm Al Horford, 23 points." You know, like,
yes.
But he couldn't. There was no saving them last night. That was their saving grace game 1, but there was no saving them game 2 because they had a dry spell where everybody was trying to get a bucket. They're missing bunnies, missing shots, can't get anything to go their way. And what happens? Golden State goes on a roll. First, Curry's a little quiet. I mean, he had 21 in the first quarter, but what really kept him alive that first quarter was Andrew Wiggins. What was he able to do? Be consistent. They couldn't stop him off the glass. They couldn't stop him on the putbacks. Couldn't stop him driving to the basket. It became a real problem. Then wait a second. Draymond Green starts facilitating. Starts getting, being Draymond, being a pest. Then it becomes even worse problem once Jordan Poole gets going. Jordan Poole, I feel like at some point during that game, during the end of that second quarter, at some point, or was it at the end of the third quarter? I mean, I'm sorry about that. At the end of the third quarter, somebody said something to Jordan Poole. It was like, "Your mom stink," and he went off. That's what I feel like happened. I felt like they was like, "Your mom suck," and he was like, "Oh, bet half court three." I was like, somebody made him mad. Somebody told him he can't shoot. Somebody told him that he's not a splash brother.
Lies.
They said he's not related to Curry and Clay. They said that to him. And he was like, "Watch this, my guy." And that's what really put the game away. Was it's just too many options. It's too much. It's just that if you had to go through just Curry and Clay, you know what I mean? Draymond may come along, you know what I mean? But he's really not there for the scoring aspect. He's there for the defensive and the emotional support for the team. That's just what he does. But you can say, I'm not saying they were shutting down Curry, but Derek White was doing a phenomenal job guarding Curry. Blocks, steals, being that pest that you have to be with Curry, because Curry is a pest on the offensive board because he's going to run you down. But if you have that track star pest mentality like Derek White did, he was actually able to, even though he got 21 scored on him, Curry should have had a lot more, is what I'm getting at, in the first quarter, because he was rolling. He was rolling that first and second quarter. He was rolling.
He was. Yeah.
But it's just too much. Clay didn't have a great game, but who did they have to step up? Andrew Wiggins stepped up. Who did they have to step up? Jordan Poole stepped up. It's just that they just have way too much when you have your star pseudo shut down. You know what I mean? Pseudo. And your second in command can't really get going, and you can go deep into your lineup and pull guys to drop 10 to 15 points, then you can work with that. And the fact of the matter is that Clay started heating up a little bit toward the end of the second quarter, but couldn't keep that rhythm going. He lost it. And that was kind of a game changer as well. But it's just the fact that they just have too many options. There's too much. It is legitimately too much. I want to sit here on this podcast and say, Chris, I support the Boston Celtics. I want them to win. I believe in my whole heart that they can win. I don't believe that. I can't sit up here and lie to you guys. I'm not going to be a bandwagoner and switch when they start winning, because I have them winning. I mean, I have the Golden State Warriors winning in 6. So I say that they might take one in Boston, but the Golden State Warriors will take the rest of them afterwards, and the series will be over. Golden State have another championship, another banner in the rafters in Oakland. That's going to be the end all be all.
Yeah.
I proved I mean, not proved, but I supported them all the way here. The Boston Celtics. I believed in them all the way here, but it's just that they're just running into a monster right now that they cannot beat at their current level. Dragon Ball Z, there's power levels.
Yes.
Remember when?
Exactly.
Remember when? Sorry for my anime fans out there. Remember when Vegeta was like, when Nappa looked at Vegeta, was like, "What's his power level? It's over 9,000." That's kind of what I'm looking at the Warriors as right now. Like it's over 9,000, and right now the Boston Celtics are looking like Yamcha and Tien, like in comparison. If you get that reference,
I'm a Naruto guy.
Okay, well I'll do Naruto then. Okay. So the Golden State Warriors are, let's say, Madara, right?
Damn. Okay.
Right? I'm talking about not reanimated. I'm talking about Madara when he first came back, and he couldn't use any ninjutsu right away, right? That was him.
Yeah.
And the Boston Celtics were the Shinobi Alliance getting torched.
That was a great scene.
It was 1 on 100.
Watch that one guy just destroy everybody was like amazing.
1 on 100. That's what it is.
Yeah. I think that's a great analogy, Chris. Was there anything you want to say? Anything else you want to say?
That's it. That's my whole thing right there. Like I said, I want to support Boston. I supported them all the way through. I had them beating Brooklyn. I had them going this far. I had them even winning the East when Jason said that the Heat would win the East. But they just ran into that big boss. They've made it all the way through the story mode, and they ran into the big boss. If you play Elden Ring, all the bosses are big bosses. So they all hard to beat. They just ran into that one guy who's just like, I'm going to smack you around a couple times before you finally figure out the strategy.
Yeah, I definitely think that game one, when Al Horford and Derek White shoot that well, they shot 50% from the 3-point line that game. I mean, that's ridiculous. But they took game one, rightfully so. You win a basketball game, It counts as a W. I don't care how it happens. So, I think the Warriors are in a worse position because of that. Because usually I would have guessed that they'd be going 2-0 up into Boston and try to split, but would be hard to. And, the things that I've seen is really important. Is one, Steph is playing like he's that guy right now. Steph is the best player in the series. Steph is playing. When he hits some threes, man, the whole crowd erupts. They get in the rhythm. And then Jordan Poole hits those 2 threes. Like, as I was saying, like, Steph had a great game one as well. Like, he is playing at a superstar level right now. Everything he's hitting is tough shots. He's playing perfect basketball. Game 1 and 2. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Klay Thompson. They're really using him well. Jordan Poole, I saw some dumb say Jordan Poole was a less valuable player to the series than Marcus Smart. That guy's on TV, so his last name ends with Erd, and and I just you don't watch basketball, obviously. Jordan Poole is that guy. Jordan Poole is, dear goodness, oh my gosh. So, but that's beside the point.
It must be that caused him to go off at the end of the third quarter, knocked out 2 threes.
Yeah, it was him. It was his problem. Yeah. Marcus Smart's not better than Jordan Poole. Plot twist.
He wanted to be like, you're not that guy, pal. You're not that guy.
No, and I really, I really think Draymond Green won game 2. The reason why is everybody was in their mama on the Boston Celtics was fighting with Draymond Green verbally. I saw Jaylen Brown try to push him on his trying to get up. I saw Grant Williams get a ticky-tack foul trying to hold on to Draymond Green. He even got the head coach talking to him, and he's getting a technical, and then Steph Curry goes down the line and shoots his free throws. He said Jason Tatum and him are talking at the beginning of the game. Marcus Smart and him are getting at it. That man punked this Boston Celtics. That man controlled the basketball game, and he did have more 10 points. And something that while reading Kevin Garnett's book, he talked about how he learned by watching Charles Barkley and Gary Payton control the game with their talking ability by controlling the whistle. That he learned how to do that. Mm-hmm. So Draymond Green's one of those guys that can control the game by the whistle. And the Boston Celtics, honestly, have always been the team that walks that line between it's kind of legal and it's kind of not. It's kind of they walk that line. They just do. Okay, Jaylen Brown's elbowing everybody as he tries to get a bucket. They just walk the line. Grant Williams, they walk the line. Draymond Green poked all of them and said, "Oh, you're gonna walk the line. I'm gonna flop while you walk the line, and we're gonna get these foul calls." And what that is doing is extremely important because the Boston Celtics, if that keeps on happening, they're not gonna be able to get away with the ticky-tacky stuff. So what does that mean? How are you going to put your hands on Steph Curry running around all screens? How are you going to put your hands on Klay Thompson running around screens? How are you going to put your hands on Jordan Poole? It's going to be harder to play rougher if Draymond Green can keep on controlling the series with the whistle and the level of intensity that the game is played at. Because, I'm sure against most teams, Draymond Green would love to play physical because he's a physical player. But against the Boston Celtics, you want to negate their physicality because it's harder for refs when, let's say, somebody gets fouled. Let's say somebody fouls somebody on every move they make. Are they going to call every foul? No. Why would you call 100 fouls in a game? They can't do that. So what that means, whenever level of physicality is initiated, and it's not foul cold enough to stop it, then they can keep on doing it. But what Draymond Green is doing very brilliantly is he's negating it by instigating it and then flopping and acting like what they're doing is more egregious than what it is, and then they get the foul. And then it's really working. It's gonna, if this keeps on happening, the Warriors, I feel 100% certain that they're going to win the series. And nobody's going to talk about how important Draymond Green is, but the man is pressing all the right buttons in game 2. I've never seen a better game by a player that did not score more than 10 points than I watched in that game. It was extremely impressive. Jason Tatum had a really good game. He's a bucket. He's always going to be a bucket. Jaylen Brown didn't have his best game, but I'm sure that things are going to change for that. Going into Boston, it's going to be hard though. You got 2 straight games of Boston. If they win both home games, they're up 3-1. So there's going to be a level of intensity that the Golden State Warriors are going to be bringing to win one. You know what I mean? And the hard thing about playing a team like the Golden State Warriors is they can do what they did in the third quarter. They can lose their mind and get hot and win the game. Actually, it was the fourth quarter. It was a close game for 3 quarters, and then boom, Warriors win by 20. You know what I mean? Like, they have that extra gear that Chris talked about. So that's what I saw. It was a really interesting game. The Boston Celtics really need to work as hard as they can to try to go into Boston Garden in Game 6 up 3-2, because that's their Game 7. They have to do whatever it takes to not get knocked out in 5. Because if they go Game 7 with the Warriors in Oracle, in their home stadium, it's not going to be a good matchup. So, the Boston Celtics are really going to have to play with a newfound level of intensity. And if they don't adjust to what Draymond Green is doing, then they will keep on getting punked mentally, and this will be a short series.
It's funny that you mentioned Draymond Green, because I can't agree with you more about that. He was playing like that. Look, think about this for a second, guys. He was being physical, being chatty with a tech. He had a tech. Yes. With that Jaylen Brown situation, he was 1 second away from being ejected, and that changes the whole tide of the game. I think that's what Boston was hoping for, but the Brest was like, we're going to let him play and see what happens. They didn't want to just turn the series around because they knew how important Draymond Green was. They didn't want to just give them that much of an advantage to just take the game over. I mean, to take the game over, because with him out, I mean, they're free to do what they want. They have nothing. Yeah. At that point, I mean, they still have scores, but you know what I mean? Like, on that level of emotional, leadership and things like that, don't have nobody on that level. So Draymond Green out, the Boston Celtics probably run away with Game 2. And you were absolutely right. It was not. I'm just gonna correct it real quick. It wasn't game four. It was game. I mean, not game four. It wasn't the fourth quarter. It was the third quarter. Jordan Poole and everybody else started losing their minds at the the halfway mark of the third quarter, and they went on like 2-8-0 runs and knocked them completely out. Steph Curry and Jordan, everybody else, Steph Curry sat the whole fourth quarter. The entire fourth quarter. Like set. Has that happened in finals history before where the star player just sits the entire fourth quarter?
Rarely happens. Rarely.
Did that happen during the Cavs Golden State series with Kevin Durant?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think it happened.
Oh, I thought you meant like 2015 or 2016 because they were both such 3-point shooting teams that they both probably got hot some games and just blew the other team out.
I'm saying like the Kevin Durant. I don't think that happened that game either. But Curry, they were they had like almost a 30-point lead.
Yeah,
Curry set the rest of the game, knowing that there was nothing they could do.
Yeah,
because Ime Udoka just switched the second team and was like, "You guys play."
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting, Chris. Really interesting. One other thing that I saw was interesting is there's a lot of 3-guard lineups from the Warriors. I think it's because of switchability and it's harder to basically Gary Payton, Jordan Poole, and Steph is a common lineup you'll see, and it's really interesting. It's like almost like Gary Payton is subbing in and out for Andrew Wiggins. Nima Bjelica got some more minutes. I thought that was a really good adjustment by Steve Kerr because of the size of the Boston Celtics. They needed to rotate in a second center instead of just putting Draymond Green in there. And Draymond Green was one of the best games you'll ever see from Draymond Green last night, and he did score more than 10 points. It was a wow performance. I mean, defensively, he was everywhere.
And did you see the passing ability of Curry? We don't talk enough about his passing ability. We commend him on his shot making ability, his shot creation ability, but his passing ability was on full display last night.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree with you, man. It's this team's the better team. It's just they're in a tough spot because Al Horford and White got hot game one. So it's going to be a battle. The next 2 games are going to be the deciding factors because if they go up 3-1, it's mathematically basically impossible other than if you have LeBron. So I really think that Boston's just got to play for Game 6 going up 3-2. Yeah, that's what I would be, telling my guys. And, I think they can't let this happen again. But they're one of those teams that's used to being the bully. Like the Boston Celtics are used to being the bully. But Draymond Green is like, oh, you want to be the bully? Poke. Oh, foul. Like it may not be just like in that second, like they might not be talking back and forth, but I saw that happen where Jason Tatum and him are talking, right? And Draymond Green exaggerates how hard it was to get away from him, and he flops and he gets a foul call on Jason Tatum. Like he's just so good at it. It's just it's a gift. It's a gift, and he has the gift. The gift of a devious, brilliant mind of Draymond Green. So I don't think he should be the MVP of this series if they do win, but I think we really got to talk about Draymond Green as an extreme impactor on winning basketball teams because it's ridiculous what's going on here. That was one of the greatest performances, like I said before, that I've ever seen by a player not score more than 10 points in the game. Controlled it.
Yeah. Did you hear about Quinn Snyder stepping down from the Utah Jazz?
What? Shut the front door.
Yeah, hold on. I got it on.
You're playing jokes.
I'm sorry. Let me confirm it real quick. I saw it yesterday, but I didn't quite read the story. But I was just like so in shock. But I think it's true.
Way. No way.
Give me a second. I'm going to Woj page right now. I'm going to Woj.
Don't tease me like that.
Yeah. Yeah. He stepped down.
Why? Was he forced? Was it like one of those things? Oh, we'll step down. We'll actually like fire you in public.
Let me read it. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, so it says Utah Jazz coach Quinn Snyder is planning to step down. Sources tell ESPN. After 8 seasons as coach, Snyder simply decided that it's time to step away. Conversations have been amicable with the team. Relationships still strong, but Snyder has signed to leave after building the Jazz into a perennial playoff contender. After losing Snyder, the second winningest coach in franchise history, the Jazz plan to commence on a coaching search immediately. But guess what? Guess who's not happy? Donovan Mitchell. He's uncertain about the franchise's future. We might see him depart sooner rather than later. Good job, Jazz. You ran off your coach, and now you're going to run off your star. Thoughts, Jay?
This is a great example of how little people talk about how much a crappy front office can ruin a team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember while reading Steve Kerr's book that he talked about how the owner, while he was the GM of the Phoenix Suns, the owner told him that there was a certain amount of money that he wanted to pay for his players, and he forced him to trade some of their better players to lower their contracts, to lower their salary. When they had Steve Nash in like 2007, 2008, and he had to rebuild. So that's an example of how shitty organizations can negatively impact winning. An example of the Utah Jazz being a shitty organization is paying Rudy Gobert the max. I mean, dear goodness, Chris, like, not a gazillion years would you pay him the max.
No,
because he's the fourth or fifth best option on offense. Like, so the organization made a problem there. Secondly, the organization gave him a problem by allowing him to be empowered enough to think that he's more valuable than Donovan Mitchell. Right? So you keep on pressing the button of the only player that's like superstar level on that team. And you press the button so much that the coach leaves. Let's talk about the coach. In my opinion, the guy who just got fired is a top 8 to top 5 NBA coach in the league. Why? Because he has taken that team to the playoffs consistently for the past 5 to 8 years with a team that doesn't have anybody other than Donovan Mitchell that can score more than 20 points per game on a terrible team. You put Bojan Bogdanovic on the Houston Rockets, it's borderline. It's like, man, he really has to get the shot attempts to really be that guy. You put Mike Conley when he was just 35. You know what I mean? Like, the GM has the bright idea. Who has the ball all the time in the playoffs? Donovan Mitchell. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go pay that old guy named Mike Conley $100 million to be our secondary ball handler. What?
Yeah.
The coaches had to deal with a much below team of what the winning that he has produced. He has made everybody in the world think that his team is much better than it is because of his coaching. He forced everything to Rudy Gobert defensively because it's the only thing that he could do. And it was very, very good at it. And his team didn't have a lot of defensive talent other than Rudy Gobert, so that's why the system was built. Because he had to utilize the only thing and cover their deficiencies. Because Bogdan can't guard. Joe Ingles can't guard. Mike Conley wasn't able to guard anymore. He was a really good defender in Memphis, but, age catches us all.
Exactly.
Donovan Mitchell's not a great defender because he has to be a volume scorer. Like, what are you even talking about? The man has to score 40 for you guys to win a game in the playoffs. Like, I don't even know what we're talking about here. And they did such a terrible job as an organization that they lost that coach. They lost that guy. I don't know if they fired him informally and just said, he's splitting ways, but you lost him either through your negligence by not building a good team around him that he's going to have to uplift, or him having to deal with the idea that Donovan Mitchell is going to be leaving soon.
Mm-hmm.
So your negligence again. because you're the one that empowered Rudy Gobert to think he was that guy when he's just not that guy.
You're not that guy, pal.
No. All he does is catch lobs and defend the rim. That's not a max player. That's the GM's. That's not that big of a difference. It really is not. Except Clint can probably guard in the perimeter better. He's a little bit of a different center, but I understand your analogy.
Yeah.
Like, terrible. This is like, I don't know, Steve Kerr getting fired, Greg Popovich getting fired, having to walk away because of, issues. That means the front office was giving me too much random stupid shit that I had to deal with and cook into a playoff team.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations. Like, seriously. It's egregious, Chris. That's my take on it. Hopefully Donovan Mitchell leaves the terrible organization known as the Utah Jazz.
Now, I can't agree with you more. You know how I feel about Utah. So here we go. So Utah has done the worst job I've ever seen outside of drafting Donovan Mitchell of continually building a championship roster. You see how when I read it, it said perennial playoff contender because they're not even seen as a championship contender because you send out the same squad every year and hope for a different result. There has been a quote that I've probably used on here before. Doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. There has to be some form of change. We did not see, I don't know if there was no money available or if we just didn't want to move our pieces. We're going to keep running it back 5 years in a row and get the same result. That does not work. We have seen this does not work. And Quinn Snyder definitely got tired of it. Did you rein your coach off and now you're going to run your best player off and then you're going to be left with nothing? Because you're not going to be able to keep him. You're not going to be able to keep him. This coach was able to take what little you gave him year after year after year after year and take it to the playoffs just to be humiliated year after year after year after year. There's no redeeming qualities in this season, in the season before, or the season before. Besides the fact that you drafted Donovan Mitchell a couple years ago, that's the only thing redeeming in these past 5 years. Other than that, you have been the exact same organization, and it's sickening. Why do you refuse to change? Why are you insane?
I completely agree with you. Another good example of them being stupid, I just thought about it, is Gordon Hayward was a good player before his injury. You know what I mean? He got himself injured as soon as his Boston career started. Many people may not know. I don't know if you guys know this. Gordon Hayward was all-star with the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
They did not have the foresight to keep him and Donovan Mitchell together because he would have been the second best if he was healthy. He would have been the second best player in that team because he would have been a solid 26 and because he's a good passer. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of intrinsic things that Gordon Hayward could have offered to Donovan Mitchell to be as two. You know what I mean? And then this team has actually become more legitimate. But the front office, terrible at their job. You know what I mean? Now that I think about it, what have they done? And since John Stockton and Karl Malone left, they had Deron Williams for a while. They let him go. You know, they let him be out of shape. You know what I mean? They must have not held him accountable because the man was never in shape. Deron Williams. I mean, they had Carlos Boozer for a while. He was pretty solid. But other than that, I can't think of one thing they've done other than probably just get lucky with Donovan Mitchell. Because, I mean, you can't take... there is no way that you can sell to me, Chris, that you know how to make draft picks if I haven't seen you do anything other than Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert in the past decade. What have they drafted that's been worked out? I can't think of a player. Derek Favors, I drafted him in the top 3 pick. That man never reached his potential of what they probably thought he would have been, but they must have been wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I can't think of this organization, now that I think of it, doing anything that, man, this team really knows what they're doing. They understand what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, I just think they got lucky. I think they got lucky with Donovan Mitchell, and they're about to lose him. And this is one of those organizations that's just bad at being a basketball organization, like the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, I think this Minnesota Timberwolves has gotten better for the most part. Maybe it's the coaching staff. Maybe they're starting to see that there might be a little bit of error in their ways. I'm gonna give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt because I'm really, really, kind of how do I say?
They had 3 number 1 picks.
Yeah, but they're doing a little bit better. I think I see a glimpse of hope in their future. I don't see anything for
Yeah,
Utah.
I understand what you're trying to say. I was talking about the front office though.
Yeah, Utah hasn't been the same since AK-47 got bodied by Baron Davis.
Oh yeah, AK-47. He was a good player.
They haven't been the same since then.
Good defender.
Yeah, they haven't been the same since then. It's just a little joke, but yeah. In all seriousness, Utah. This should be a look at the man in the mirror moment for you, for sure. You have to really analyze and really look deeply into the organization and see why.
Yes.
Why what we had the best coach we've had in ever. You know, it's just why is he stepping down? Why are we being called a playoff contender and not a championship contender? And why does our best player want to leave? Why can't we keep why are we a good regular season team, but when it comes to the playoffs, we can never show up and reach that next potential? It's because you refuse to change. Change is good sometimes, and this is the point where you should change.
Yeah. You know, I just thought about another thing. There's a old podcast that we did. I don't expect everybody to listen to every podcast that we've ever done. So I'll bring up a simile from something we've done before. Is one of the things that I talked about once was, after doing some research, that there's a correlation between good basketball teams and teams that hold on to former good players as people in the front office. So basically, they hold on to these good old players. They put them a part of the front office because they're there to help teach the young guys how to be great players, how to play as one, play as a unit. Okay. So two teams right off the top of my head I can think of that have done this at an extremely high level. Miami Heat has had Alonzo Mourning since he retired. He has been a part of that front office for the Miami Heat for an extremely long time. Think about all the player development they've done. Think about all the drafting they've done. Think about all that great organization that organization is. Another one right off the top of my head again, Dominique Wilkins. Dominique Wilkins has been a part of the Atlanta Hawks organization for a very, very long time. Now, you may think to yourself, the Atlanta Hawks don't sound like a great name, but they had a few good eras. Think about Trae Young right now. Think about how good that team's developed. Think about the fact that they had Kyle Korver, Al Horford, Jeff Teague, and that group go to the Eastern Conference Finals to lose against LeBron with a 60-win team. Think about before that, they had Joe Johnson in that squad with Josh Smith. They've been good since I've been alive. They've been relevant since I've been alive. You know what I mean? That's a sign of a good organization. Think about the Spurs. Hello, Tim Duncan's sitting on that bench for a reason, okay? Good organizations keep the guys around. I could tell you right off the top of my head, two guys from the Utah Jazz that aren't there. Karl Malone and John Stockton. How is that even possible? John Stockton's from Gonzaga. He went to Gonzaga University. He's from that area. And they can't keep him on the organization. The all-time leader in assists and steals, one of the greatest minds that's ever graced the basketball court, never has gone into coaching. And you couldn't pay him enough money to get him to stay around. Are you really telling me that John Stockton would not love to go be a part of the Utah Jazz organization to go do something fun? You know what I mean? Anybody that you have to understand that these are top 1% athletes, and if they're great, they love the living poo out of basketball. Michael Jordan, religious about basketball. Listen to LeBron James talk about basketball. John Stockton is one of these all-time grape types who gave his whole life from the age of probably 5 to 40 to basketball. And you're telling me he wouldn't like to be a part of your organization that kept him there for 20 years?
Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about one of them? Like, they don't keep him or the guy who's a top 5 all-time scorer. Like, bro, how is that even possible? His name's Karl Malone. Look him up. Like, that's just another sign that this is just a crappy organization, Chris. Crappy. Yeah. Yeah, I think, Karl Malone was never a part of that organization as well. I mean, how do you miss on a guy who's a top 5 scorer of all time? Like, those two guys, man, you can't tell me that there's not a correlation there between organizations bringing on these players to help teach them how to be great. You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain level of work ethic and NBA understanding that you hear a lot of people talk about that gets passed down to the younger generations that these guys have in spades, but they don't have them. So that's just an example to try to explain that the Utah Jazz are a terrible organization. They don't do things correctly, and Quinn Snyder was not supposed to be fired as a coach. I mean, that guy is amazing.
Yeah, no. I really just hope that he just was like, yeah, I'm sick of this and left and not fired. And I wonder if like, because there was a lot of talks, about like maybe the Lakers might try to go after Quinn Snyder, possibly.
Oh dear goodness, they made a mistake. All they had to do was wait 2 weeks. Can we? Hey, Devin Ham. I don't know your name that well, but we've just been doing a lot of research lately and thinking about things lately, and I think we're gonna move in a different direction.
It's not you, it's me.
I don't even know if they can do that now since they signed the paperwork. So
yeah,
one team I can think of right at the top of my head that would become my NBA championship favorites is if the Brooklyn Nets figured out how to fire Steve Nash. It's their goodness. If Quinn Snyder got a hold of that team.
Here's another good one too. Here's another good one too. Did you hear that D'Antoni is going to talk with Jordan today about possibly taking the coaching job for the Hornets?
Really? Now that is a great fit. Wow. They already love to run, and they used to have that guy who used to be from the Spurs. Yeah. So if they were running with a coach that was a Spurs old head coach, just imagine what they're going to do with Mike D'Antoni there. It's going to be a track meet. I really feel like that fits the way they play as a team, an extremely high level. So I would love that hiring. It's rare to find a coach that perfectly fits your talent. Especially like an example of that is Ime Udoka. Ime Udoka comes from the Spurs. They fit their talent of the team, defensively minded, good wing scoring, Kawhi, all those type of things. Winning pedigree, understanding how to win in the playoffs. Unlike Brad, Brad Stevens is a good coach, but it's a better fit because Brad Stevens was better fit for Isaiah Thomas. Oh, I got an electric guard. I'll build around him. And Mike D'Antoni, that's a perfect fit. LaMelo Ball, like those guys, Lonzo and LaMelo and Leandro played at like rocket fuel in high school. So it's gonna be 5 seconds or less. I don't know, but it's gonna be a track meet next year, and it's gonna be a lot of points. And hopefully they can just figure out something to do defensively because that's always been Mike D'Antoni's flaw.
That's what I was talk about. Yeah, because it's just his one flaw is just defense.
Yeah, so he's got to find that right guy and trust him. He did find it with the Houston Rockets for a while, and I think he retired. I can't think of his name.
Yeah, I like that pickup too because I feel like LaMelo could be like the second coming of Steve Nash for real for them because like his shoot can pass really well. He loves to play the floor. His playing is infectious.
Yes,
I think that's a really nice young team for him to coach if he was to get that job for sure.
Yes, I could 100% see that.
10 seconds or less is D'Antoni, and that's like Charlotte is just really fun to watch. Really fast paced game. Mm-hmm. They play at breakneck speeds, so always trying to push the ball and get the ball up the court. But they just have to figure out how to do that. If they can do that with a winning defensive, what do I want to say? A winning defensive combination.
Yeah,
they could take a team. They could take the team to the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, I could see that. Honestly, I don't know how old Mike D'Antoni is, but it's rare to have, in my opinion, a fluidity from the sense of a good GM and a good head coach being at the same job at the same time. It's rare for that to happen. And I believe that the Mike Muchek, I think his name or something, I forget his exact name, but I really think the Hornets GM has done a great job in the past few years. And, MJ is kind of getting... I hope that the reason why the team's getting better is MJ starting to let his staff do their job and not, like, get into things too much. But that connection between the head coach and the GM could be really good, because when you have a good connection like that, where two guys are really good at their jobs at the same time, special things can happen. So, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about that. That's a great thing to be a Charlotte Hornets fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what I just thought of? That like a light bulb just went off in my head, and it may or may not happen because I've never heard of a head coach stepping down to be an assistant coach. But what if like Darvingham could like, oh, Quinn Snyder, come join my coaching staff?
I would be ecstatic. Ecstatic. I seriously though, like if the Nets don't pay Quinn Snyder enough money to have his children walk on gold plated seats for the rest of their lives, I'm sorry, you're doing something wrong. How's it not happened that the Nets haven't fired Steve Nash yet? He hasn't gotten fired yet, right?
No, he hasn't. I think they want to give him one more year, one more try with Ben Simmons coming back. I mean,
it's easy to win with Ben Simmons, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah. I think they're going to give it one more shot because he had to deal with a lot of injuries. They can't really blame the season on him.
Oh, trust me, I'm blaming the season on him.
They dealt with a lot of injuries. Then they had a guy refuse to play. So,
and they had a coach who didn't know how to coach. Oh my goodness, bro! When you put mini-me's to guard Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, you lose the series.
They had such success the first year, so it was like, let's run it back.
Yeah, it's that's a rare situation where that guy gets to keep his job because they put so much investment in him. They probably visualize that this is going to work out. Oh, it's going to be so great, and then poof! It's surprising because usually a guy with such great basketball IQ doesn't flop so hard. But I mean, you can make the argument that Mark Jackson, flopped a little bit for the Golden State Warriors because he didn't see how much off-ball movement could be useful for that team because they weren't doing the things that they were doing with Steve Kerr. So you can kind of question that. Yeah, but I think that there's been a few. If the Hornets really hired D'Antonio, there's a few good head coaches landing at right spots. I think it's been a pretty good offseason for head coaches for teams. It's a good batch this year, in my opinion.
And unless Quinn Snyder technically retires, I don't see him sitting away from the game for a long time because it's got to be somebody with a functioning brain who will be like, Quinn Snyder, no way, come join us.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah. It's fun, man. It's fun. It's fun to be an NBA basketball addict.
Yeah. You have anything else for us, Jay?
No, I mean, I guess what game do you think the NBA Finals will end? What's your how many games do you think will end now?
Oh, I said Warriors in 6.
Do you still stand by that?
Yeah.
I'm going Warriors in 7. I think Boston has enough to force it to 7 after them splitting the Warriors at their home court.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, for some reason it could be. Go ahead.
I just want to go with Warriors in 6. Yeah.
Yeah. I have this odd feeling that there's a 20% chance that the Warriors don't lose another game in the series, though. Do you feel that?
It could happen. They have too many dry spells, and the Warriors have been playing suffocating defense lately. I mean, like Jason Tatum's going to get what he's going to get. You know what I mean? But when you can stop the rest of those guys from getting off, then it's a bit of a problem because they can't go deep into the bench. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. My gut feeling for that is name me a quarter that the Boston Celtics have looked better than the Golden State Warriors in the past 2 games. As a team.
Oh, as a team?
Yeah.
I mean, no.
I can't think of any. That's the point.
I mean,
even though they won
quarter one of game 2.
Yeah. Boston looked better quarter 2 of game 1. Game 1.
I mean, quarter 1. I think it was. They got off to a hot start a little bit. And quarter 4, but that was mostly like driven by one player, kind of. So
yeah.
But they went on a 40-16 run. So I mean, that's team effort there.
Yeah.
On some level.
yeah, I guess my point by that is, other than game one, fourth quarter when Al Horford gets hot, right? People may say that quarter, but my eye test is telling me that I haven't watched a moment in that game or any game at all between these two games where I've said, "Man, Boston Celtics are outplaying them." It's not like, okay, it's hard to explain this. So let's say you're playing basketball game against somebody else and you're the better team, right? But
Mm-hmm.
they hit 15 out of 33s that day. You're probably not going to beat them that game. That's just the natural luck and the natural way basketball is. Any team can be beat any night, and that's why March Madness is fun. But the
Mm-hmm.
NBA is different. The NBA has perfected figuring out what team is better because of the 7-game series. Because in a whole 7-game series, you're not going to be the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm getting at is, I haven't seen the Boston Celtics really take control of a game where it looks like what they're doing and the way are winning that game one was something that they can repeat in other games. What I
Mm-hmm.
mean by that is, how many games is Al Horford going to score 26 and Derek White's going to score 20 something and they're going to go ridiculously hot from the 3-point line? That's not something that can be applicable to other games. But there is not a single thing that I've seen the Golden State Warriors do that I can't say they're not going to do every single game. What I mean by that is, I've seen Steph Curry do the same thing he always does. He's dropping them at the volleyball line, you know what I mean, and hitting great passes. I've seen the same thing Jordan Poole's always done. He's dropping them at the volleyball and hitting great passes. Oh my gosh, we have some great new way to get Klay Thompson open that's like so hard to spot. I literally saw them have Klay Thompson come off a screen with a screener, right? Trying to get open for three. And Draymond Green had his back turned to the guy that could have came up to stop Klay Thompson from scoring. Kind of like making this square of space. Like Klay Thompson had just like a free look. He missed it. But I was like, they just do so many creative things that are going to be able to be applicable to every single game. And I haven't seen a single quarter where I've been able to say what the Boston Celtics are doing right now, the way they are scoring and winning this quarter, is going to be able to beat them consistently that way. And that's why I have a little bit of an inkling this could go 5. It's there. It's there. So, and I'm sure the Boston fans could disagree, whatever. And it's cool. I'm not the funny thing is, we're from Cleveland. So, like, we're Cleveland Cavaliers fans, and we're talking about the Golden State Warriors this way. So we're not biased, trust me. We've been killed by that guy too many times. Steph Curry and the whole squad there. So, that's what it's an odd feeling, but it could happen. I really think that there's a 25% chance that they gentlemen sweep them.
Ooh, I don't want to give them that because, like, I've been rooting for Boston this whole time, so I want to say, like, they could take at least one more game, and that's coming from somebody, once again, Cleveland fan. So there should definitely be animosity here because of what happened to Kevin Love those years back. But we let that go. We moved past it.
He should have gotten thrown out of the game.
He definitely
also Kelly Olynyk should have gotten thrown out of basketball, in my opinion. But when you tear somebody's shoulder on purpose, I guess it's cool.
Yeah, so I don't want to say the gentleman sweep. I just want to say they'll take 2 games. They'll take one more in Boston and then lose the rest.
No.
I mean, they gentleman sweep that once.
Yeah.
Look, I don't want to say a gentleman sweep. I just want to say it's gonna go 6. It's gonna go 6. It's gonna end in Oracle. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's 2 good teams, but I'm not seeing it from Boston.
I mean, in Boston. I'm sorry, it's gonna end in Boston.
No. Well, that was a fun one. Do you have anything else you want to say?
No, but don't you have something to say about our rating?
Yeah, we're definitely trying to continue to reach that 5-star status on all platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you guys can rate, review, subscribe. It really helps us grow. We're really trying to build a community here. We're definitely want you guys to find other people that are basketball addicts and, enjoy talking about basketball together. If you're somebody new from TikTok, coming in, listening to our podcast. We appreciate you guys. We're going to keep on giving you guys great content the best we can, and we're going to keep on entertaining you guys. And a lot of fun things are going to be coming in the off season. I mean, the draft is like 3 weeks away. That's going to be a fun time. We got free agency. We got all these unique things that we're going to be doing. So definitely stick around. So yeah. Well, anything else you want to say, Chris?
Nah, man, that's it. Hit it right on the nail.
All right, sounds like a bet. Well, I'm Jason Collins.
And I'm Chris Mahman.
And we are the Basketball
Addicts. Peace.
Peace out.